When you don't express anger, your capacity to hold it, it's like filling up a water bottle. Like, that's how your body, and you just fill up the water bottle with water, at a certain point, it's going to spill over.
When I was younger, it was much worse, because I had like ADHD and I wasn't on meds, and then like I would play Call of Duty and I'd get really mad at people camping.
You need to be motivated to succeed. And then that became too saturated, so people said, you don't need motivation, you actually need discipline to do the thing that you need to do regardless of how you feel. And so he one-upped it. He said, discipline is a skill that takes time, and most people aren't disciplined at all. So how do you get good at how do you become disciplined? How do you build that skill? It's resilience. And so his whole thing was, instead of trying to be disciplined, just be resilient. Every time you notice yourself fucking up, just consciously go, no, I need to go back. No, I need to go. It's like the same thing with meditation. When you're doing mindfulness meditation, the whole point is just focus on your breath.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, I think, the third edition of Puffy's podcast, name probably pending. I'm here today with a dear friend of mine, all the way from Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Yeah. His name is Nicholas, or Nico, Mr. Bueno, aka I have him in my phone with a raccoon emoji.
Thank you.
So I guess, well, most people that know me probably don't know you. So I guess start with like your sob story.
My sob story?
No, let's start with like who you are. I don't know.
Not even an introduction? Yeah, so my name's Nicholas Bueno. I'm 25, turning 26. I run a marketing agency. I currently live in Vancouver. I spent the last 3 years living in Toronto. I'm originally from Winnipeg. And I also did stand-up comedy semi-professionally for about 4 years. I've worn a lot of different hats in my life, dropped out of college twice, was able to scale my marketing agency to about 23K American a month in just under a year, and it's kind of been at that point steadily since. So
it's a good quick synopsis. Well, I really like you because we get along well.
Appreciate it.
We have not similar, we have like both like sob story upbringings, but like
of course,
both like we can relate and correlate. So I guess you're in marketing. I guess you're really good at copy, or for people that don't know, it's like copywriting. So I guess talk more about that, like what's working, what's not.
Yeah, of course. So I'll give you the intro into why I decided to get into marketing and why I got into copywriting. Just because if anybody doesn't know what it is, it's any online text that's meant to sell something. So the reason I got into marketing was because it was kind of by accident. I think for a long time, I kind of avoided the label entrepreneur because that came with a lot of responsibility, and I thought like that's for successful people, not me. And I always wanted to just play professional basketball. So I chased the basketball dream, transferred schools a couple times, and I always loved writing. It was something I always did in the background, but I never really was forward with it until the basketball dream died, and I decided to go become a writer, but I didn't know what that meant. So I blogged and went to school for journalism and did sports media for a bit and did a podcast and realized that I wanted to do stand-up comedy, did stand-up comedy. And then after a lot of prodding and pushing from a good friend of mine who also did stand-up comedy semi-professionally, I quit and I focused on marketing because I thought I'm already pretty good at this. I'm already making decent money. And it kind of captures all the things I already love doing. There's a creative edge, which is what I love with stand-up. You can make people laugh, which is what I love with stand-up. You're getting people's attention, which as a born attention whore and a youngest child, just kind of comes with the territory. And you're also learning how to keep people's attention, which is really valuable. So if you can sell something and you can make a lot of money doing those four things, like that kind of covers the reason I love writing and comedy and sports anyway, right? So that's kind of...
You should mention how tall you are.
Oh yeah, well I'm 6'3"-ish, 6'4", depending on my shoes.
He's tall.
Yeah, I'm quite tall. I don't look like it apparently.
He hit a light.
Yeah, I hit multiple things on the way to this podcast. I hit my head on trunks.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, and a light. So.
Well, that's your story. Well, I guess, is there anything you can correlate to, I don't know, fitness or... I don't know, I guess maybe go back into like your background or like what's the sob story?
The sob story?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that this relates because like, and you're pretty candid and pretty honest with your audience about what you went through and your journey. And I mean, people can imagine, right? Like when you're 370 pounds, like it's not easy. You're not playing life on easy mode.
No, it's really easy, man. I just sprinted up. Usain Bolt up those stairs.
Yeah.
People that see me, they be like, damn, man, your name should be Usain Bolt instead of Puffy.
You know what's funny? When I played basketball, I remember one of the first travel tournaments I ever did, we went down to Minnesota, and there was this kid on one of the teams. He was like, I was like 10 or 12 or something. I was fucking short. But there was one kid, he was like 6'2", 6'3", and he was like fat. But this dude was more athletic than anybody else on the court. It was such a mind fuck, because we're like, you're not supposed to do this. How are you moving so quickly? So I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that was you in school.
Oh no, definitely. No, bro. I mean, the only position that I was good at was goalie when I was like 6 and 7, and that was for soccer. I couldn't skate. I'm a terrible Canadian. Should give me citizenship revoked. I don't know how to skate. It's really uncomfortable on the feet. Like, I don't know how people do it, but I played goalie. Shout out to Ryan or Justin if you're watching this. They're not gonna watch this, but we used to like wreck it in. I think it was one level above the house, and I would just be so fat and chubby I'd lie sideways. And so at that age, nobody could kick the ball up right.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I was like the Manuel Neuer of like 6-year-olds. But other than that, as you can imagine, as the weight started to gain, so did my inability to have athletic performances.
Yeah.
I would say my greatest achievement in athletic performances was every day waking up and walking up a flight of stairs.
Damn.
But yeah, I don't know how we got on this, but
I think you asked me about my
school. Oh yeah, it wasn't easy. No, 370 wasn't easy, but I mean, most people by now have probably nauseating by hearing my story. But yeah.
So I was just saying to compare it, because like I think you can kind of relate. But with the things that I've struggled with, at least mentally, emotionally, psychologically, people don't know as much, because it's not as easy as like, well, I was 370 pounds. Like, here's a picture of me.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, you're clearly way less fat.
Yeah.
I can't admit, like, everybody kind of knows how many problems you go through just by looking at your weight, if it's at that big of a size.
Yeah.
With mine, it was more so like, I can show them a picture of me as a kid. I look like a dork, but like,
yeah.
I don't know, find me, like, most kids look like dorks when they're young, even like hot people now. Like, you don't look at it's very rare unless they're like a fucking child model or child actor, or like a model from a young age, or like just a fucking like Pampers baby who looks perfect on a billboard. Most people aren't like super attractive their whole life. So I think with the things that I struggled with, sometimes when I told people that I met, it was kind of hard for them to believe, because I've worked really hard on those things.
Yeah.
And I've worked really hard to separate myself. But like, yeah, like, so I'll say this is kind of like my like flagship struggle moment. Like when I was 16, I was admitted into a psychiatric ward. I had attempted suicide twice when I was 16 years old, and a lot of people kind of ask like, oh, you know what happened? Like, were you just depressed? It's like, yeah, but I think it goes more than that, right? Like, I was very sheltered as a kid, and you don't get exposed to many things like socializing or hanging out with friends, or like, I remember once my mom, I asked her, I was like, yeah, Mom, like, my friend wants to hang out, like, can we go for a bike ride? She's like, you got 15 minutes. And I was like, sweet. She would have said no 2 days ago. I just like took my watch and like biked with them for 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm honestly surprised you even said yes. But it's the sob story for me is just like not believing in myself, and like that sounds super generic, and I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
But like going so far to the point of like self-sabotaging and creating loops of like, I hate everybody, the world hates me, fuck the whole world. I work really hard to get good at something, and then once I get good at something, people are like, wow, you're really good at that thing. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough. And then I like self-sabotage and I push it away. And then just kind of like rinse, repeat that in every area of my life: relationships, basketball, business.
No, I could relate to a lot of that. And then that's what led me, like, well, similar, we both attempted suicide, so woo!
Woohoo.
I don't think I was not in a psychiatric ward, so you have a one up to me on that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to catch up on the scoreboard.
Maybe, I mean, it's never too late. There's still many years ahead of me.
Don't say that.
You know, GTA 6 is coming out. Maybe it'll just push me over the edge, and I'll just like, you know what? I'll go Trevor mode.
Nice.
But no, I'm joking. For FBI watching this, I'm joking. Is there FBI Canada? I don't think so. Whatever. Shout out to the cops. How did we get here? So we both tried to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
That's fun. But then, like you know, we shifted our mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a perfect segue that I have on my computer here to make me look like a super professional business person.
Thank you.
Where it's basically like, we should honestly, definitely though, like talk about how mental strategies or mental mind shifts that we had. And I know you actually sent me one of your people or therapist. Is he a therapist? Like,
I call him my guide.
Like your dude, like a mental dude, and he's a really good dude to help with strategies and whatnot. And we're not gonna like obviously reveal the secrets, but like,
Yeah,
we should just touch on like both of us being in a dark place, obviously in two different aspects. One's more like I'm literally eating myself into oblivion. I don't know, I can't say for you, but like obviously you're in a really dark place. I don't know what necessarily led you to that, but obviously like lack of self-belief. But then coming from such a dark, deep hole, and then basically doing a 180 and having, let alone the business success, but just having the success of like not having to, you know, go back to rehab or go back to the psych ward, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you say like, oh, you know, I shared my guide's contact info with you, and you're like, we're not gonna share the secret sauce of like how to become enlightened on air. But like, that's the funny thing that I found, at least at this point in my life. It's like that scene in Kung Fu Panda where he finally gets the dragon scroll and he's like, it's blank, and then Master Shifu's like, what do you mean it's blank? And they both like freak out over there not being like an answer on the dragon scroll. And I kind of think that like that's my take on current enlightenment and fulfillment, is that there's no extra strategy you actually need.
That's true.
Like when I first started self-development and self-improvement, that was 2018, I made a very distinct, I'm gonna stop hating myself decision. It was late 2017, early 2018. I just dropped out of school for the first time. Basketball wasn't going the way I wanted to. I was pretty ready to give it up. And I decided like, I'm gonna start reading books. I'm gonna start becoming more confident. I'm gonna start talking to women instead of avoiding them. I'm gonna go back to school for something I enjoy. I'm gonna build something that calls out to me. And I looked for all these strategies. And hacks and tips and tricks, because deep down I felt inadequate. And I didn't think that if I could show anybody who I was, or if I ever made peace with that, people would think I'm a freak. So I had to learn all these hacks to cover that up. Now, I'm not saying that books and tips and tricks are bad, but it's all about the energy that you're coming at it with. So the answer that I kind of see of it now is like, back then in 2018, it was more about what do I need to do, and now it's who do I need to be.
Oh, that you put that on a tombstone. That's really biblical.
Thank you. And so it's just more so about like, how do I go deeper into myself, and like all the answers I need are already within me.
Wow, that's deep.
Thank you.
That's
Appreciate
like super philosophical.
That's not how you pronounce that.
Philosophical? I speak Puffinese.
It was close.
Yeah.
It was close.
Where I'm going to open up Pufflandia, we're going to speak Puffinese, which is basically just a hybrid of English, because I can barely speak and write it.
It's just your version of patois.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know, like there's like, you know, the French people say they speak English, but it doesn't sound like they're speaking English, right? Tabernacle. But shout out to the French people. Don't hate me, but also I don't know how to speak French. But yeah, I think a lot of what the struggles is it's your own internal battles and demons that you got to kind of face.
Of course.
And you, like, external motivation helps a lot, but internal motivation is going to be the pivotal reason. Like, a lot of people smoke, like whether cigarettes, tobacco specifically. And I know there's a lot of people that tried to quit and they didn't, but that's mainly because probably there was outside motivating factors that wanted them to change, whether it's their doctor, whether it's their family. And like a perfect example is like my mom. My mom smoked for almost 40 years. And then one day she was like, fuck it, I'm done smoking. And then she stopped. Now, is that going to work for everybody? Not really. But she had the internal motivation to change, and she did. Now, was it easy? No. But then if obviously we use my same background or my same story, I didn't smoke, thank God, I'd probably be dead. But it wasn't until I finally admitted to myself, and I was like disgusted with how I looked in the mirror, and like I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you know, tried everything under the sun. And then like I had a hard conversation with myself where it's like, dude, like you got to change. Like, I mean, at least give it a shot. Because all the other times where it's like I went to therapists, I went to nutritionists, I went to and I didn't really try trainers because I didn't really want it to pay to like work out. But I tried everything else, and nothing really worked. Mainly because my parents, God bless them, like they didn't want their kid to die, but they were more wanting me to change more than me myself. So, like, I feel like that's everyone's first battle in how to change. Like, what is it when you go to like the rehab circle or AA, and it's like the first part of admitting you have a problem is admitting you have a problem or something.
Yeah, the first part of changing the problem.
Yeah, so you kind of got to admit that you're the problem. You're the inhibitor. I mean, there's some people that like, that's a whole other topic. But some people aren't necessarily their own worst enemy. Like they're just, especially from like nutrition. Like some people's family, like they're all fat or they're all overweight, and then like just bad habits stack and then they become overweight themselves. But for most people, like I'd say 90-95%, it's typically your own worst enemy, whether it's drugs, alcohol, being overweight. So I think the first step is to kind of have that hard conversation with yourself and realize like no one else could do it for you. It could be making better success at business, it could be making better success with fitness, health, whatever. Enter whatever you want, right? But most people at business and health and fitness have a lot to go hand in hand with. You're your own worst enemy or your own worst success, and you're capable of greatness if you put your mind to it and if you take action. So I think that's step one.
Yeah, no, for sure, I agree with you. I think that something you said that was very interesting with why people get caught up or don't change, right? It's like that. You ever heard that joke? How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb?
Well, for me, it was like I talked to 9, but no, I've not heard the joke.
It's 1, but the light bulb wants to have to change.
Oh, well then, yeah, there we go. Like, well, I don't know if that's a joke. It's a good analogy, and it's basically summed up the last 10 minutes of me talking. So.
It's a cliche, but I actually think, and this is something that I thought was bullshit. Like, if you asked me this a year ago, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, for you. Okay, not for me, though. Something that I've learned, and this has really not gone down well at first, was that your success in life and your external factors will always reflect your self-image.
Oof, that's deep bars.
And I always thought that was like, nah, for other people, whatever, not for me. Like, I don't need to actually like myself. You guys can keep that over there. I'm not going to do that because that's stupid. And then I kind of realized that, you run into similar problems over and over. And then it's like, am I going to wake up and smell the coffee? The universe, God is putting the same issue in front of me. I think it's going to keep happening until I learn how to deal with it properly. And so literally, like, I've noticed so many people that just like picking up on like little things now because, I've gone and done the work, been meditating and journaling every day for 5 months straight. A lot of people don't think very highly of themselves, like really, truly on a deep level. And I recognize that because I was the same way, right? And a lot of people aren't doing as much as they want to be doing. A lot of people aren't living up to their potential. A lot of people aren't getting the outputs they want, but it starts within the mind.
Yeah.
Like, for example, last year I signed up for a program. It's actually a great program. It's called The Growth Partner. I don't even mind name dropping because I'm not even talking bad about them. Their program was awesome. It was talking about how to grow your marketing agency to $100K a month, or your B2B agency or business, whatever it was, to $100K a month. And I was like, that's a fucking awesome promise. Like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I fell off for whatever reason. And I always kind of told myself, I was like, no, I just didn't really like resonate with their program. Like, no, it just wasn't for me. Like, no, like, I just don't think it would work for my industry. And like, I revisited that thought process this year, which is about a year later. And the real answer as to why I fell off was I didn't think I was worthy of getting to $100K a month.
Damn, dude.
I honestly didn't think I deserved it.
Damn, that's sad.
It is, but now that the good part is, now that I'm aware of that thought and how deeply buried that was and it's present, I get to choose to rewire it. I get to choose to believe something different. So when I take another program, and I actually just signed up for a new program, and I can feel those same thoughts come up, oh my God, who am I to do this? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. They're not buried in my subconscious and I just push them away and continue to self-sabotage. It's at the front of my mind and I go, oh, there are those thoughts again. Cool, well that means I'm just on the right path, so I'm gonna keep going forward.
No, that's true. I think I wrote an email the other day. I put on my story, and some people kind of said like, yo, this is too blunt. But I feel like when you're talking about self-image and talking about yourself in a high degree, or just confidence, I guess if we were to sum it up, this would probably be step 2 to like how to unfuck up your situation. And it goes to like mental strategies. There was obviously a long time in my life where I hated myself and I hated how I looked, and I thought probably like a decade, like I was kind of disgusting. I was just like Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall with a purple man bun. I could say that I could talk shit about myself, like what, but you can't talk shit about me. I will kill. No, I'm joking. Again, satire. I'm not gonna kill anyone yet. I was really disgusted with the way I looked in the mirror and how I felt, and it wasn't really until like I really started gaining confidence and started giving a shit about not necessarily like what I wear, it's more how I like present myself and how I look, but not necessarily like clothes. I don't care. I'm wearing a tank top. Like I'm not wearing like a Hugo Boss, right? I don't think that's an essential part. I mean, for some people that gives them more confidence, but I think it's like it's more what's the word? Artificial.
Yeah.
Right. You're like buying confidence. But anyways, I think that's like the second step with mindset, and then I think the third thing, which would be like a really good segue, would be like external support. Whether it's a business mentor, whether it's a business coach, whether it's just a regular coach, like a fitness coach. I feel like for whatever reason, and I struggle with this myself, I don't know about you, but I struggled with accepting that I need help. And then once I did, like, shout out Nitish, he was, I think, if I do it chronologically, this was like the episode before, but he was a pivotal reason of my success. Because it wasn't until I really, like, I hit a plateau, and it wasn't really until, like, I realized I needed help, that I couldn't help myself, like, that I got the help that I needed, and then that gave me the ultimate success, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that it's, with, like you said, you don't know if I struggle with it. I always had this weird anxiety loop in my head where I'm like, oh my God, I'm failing. And then I need to get help. Oh my God, what if the help doesn't work? Oh my God, but what if me bitching out doesn't work even more? And then I'm just like freak out and, and get the help. But you're right. I think mentors is the first step, personally. Because you can't first see your blind spots. That's why they're blind spots. You need somebody to reflect them back to you. Like, there's a really interesting thing you said about confidence, which I want to get to. I'm going to bookmark that in my head. Confidence with discipline and motivation. But with mentors, I thought it was really interesting that you talked about that, because I think that's the first step. Like, I've been super, super, super blessed to have incredible mentors and men in my life, and now women, and helping me out. Like, when I went to the psych ward when I was 16, my parents made me go get a counselor. And like, what argument do I have to not go? I'm like, yeah, I just had a plan to kill myself. Like, I'll be okay. Like, no, no, I didn't know what the fuck I was
Definitely
doing.
gonna work.
So this is one of my favorite stories ever. So I was 16, fresh out of the psych ward. My parents made me go see a counselor. I didn't have any leg to stand on as to why I shouldn't. I went to go see this counselor. And the reason why I went to go see him, his name's Duncan. Lovely guy.
Donuts?
Yeah, that's actually his middle name. His last name's Al Qaeda. No, I'm kidding. But
Yo, that's the most American name. Dunkin' Donuts Al Qaeda.
Two things made by America. Anyways, we're not going on that part of the episode yet. But anyway, so I had to go see Duncan because he specialized in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which for the people who don't know what that is, it's essentially a technique that teaches you how to interrupt negative thoughts and replace them with good thoughts. And so I would go see Duncan like every week, every 10 days, and we would talk and just hang out. It didn't seem like there was much structure. I'd come, kick it, we'd laugh, have a good time. I thought he was the smartest guy in the world. And it wasn't until like 5-6 years later, I was reading this book called The Coddling of the American Mind, which is a great book, by the way, if anybody wants to read it. It's by Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff. And they talk about CBT in that book. And I was reading the description of CBT, and I was like, that doesn't sound like anything that Duncan and I did, ever. And I was like, oh, he was so good at what he did that he weaved CBT into our lessons without me realizing it.
Wow.
So I was so happy. I was so proud of myself for finding him out. I called him up because him and I are still good buddies. When he retired, we stayed good friends. I'm going to Winnipeg next week. I'm going to go see him. Great
Awesome.
guy. And so I called him up. I was so proud to be like, motherfucker, I found you out. And so I told him my theory, and he just starts laughing his ass off. And I'm like, what's so funny? And he's like, we didn't do CBT at all.
Wow.
And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, like not once. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I think I did CBT maybe once in my career, and I've been in social work for 30 years.
Wow.
I've found that when you treat people like human beings and just listen to them, they get better.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's deep, bro. Like, shit. And so that relates to what I was telling you about, where it's like, before it was all strategies and now it's just about being. I think that perfectly captures that, where he wasn't looking through a book like, let me diagnose him and what's the history and the family, and it was just like, I'm gonna be present with this person for an hour. So that was like my first real mentor that showed me like genuine love, and I felt like I wasn't a burden to them. And that's not to talk bad about my parents or anything. I love my parents, but they had their own cultural upbringings and things like that. They're immigrants.
It's different.
And it's tough, right? But after him, like, I've had a lot of great mentors, like the guy who I recommended you, and one of my good friends, his name's Darcy, and it really helps because I'm sure you relate to this, because I always felt shitty about myself, because I always felt pushed down, I would get really angry, but I didn't know how to direct that anger, and sometimes I would just freak out, and my parents were like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? Like, what's going on with him? Like, I remember last year, I was going through something, and I was so mad. I took my tripod and I just fucking broke it. Like, I just smashed it against the wall, and I ripped my sweater in half. And I called my guide, and he's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I just ripped my sweater in half and broke my tripod, and quite possibly dented my wall." And he was like, "That's okay." And he just like talked me through it. It was there for me, and it let me know that I'm not some freak who's gone, who can never be saved for having this bout of anger. Lots of people have anger. It's just how you channel it.
Yeah, man.
Right? Even Duncan, when I attempted suicide the second time, I was so horrified. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back to the psych ward. Oh, fucking hell. I told myself I'd never go back. And I called him and I was like, "Hey man, are we still good for today? Like, just attempted suicide. I don't know what to do." And he was like, "That's okay. Like, we're still good." And like, coming from a family where if you didn't put the mustard away in the fridge, like, that was World War II. For me, like, the idea of attempting suicide and it just being okay and like something that's not a big deal in terms of like your progress was fucking huge for me.
Yeah, man. I once ran my head through a wall. I gave myself a concussion. So, I mean, like, I have like a short fuse, but yeah, I guess it's just when you boil everything down, like, it's gonna be okay.
I don't think you have a short fuse. I think a short fuse is a myth, and maybe I'll come back and look at this clip and I'll be like, that was a stupid thing to say.
I mean, like,
I think that when you don't express anger,
yeah,
your capacity to hold it's like filling up a water bottle. Like, that's how your body, and you just fill up the water bottle with water, at a certain point it's gonna spill over.
Yeah, there's only so many shit sandwiches you can eat until you get really mad. So I think that's fair. When I was younger, it was much worse, because I had like ADHD and I wasn't on meds, and then like I would play Call of Duty and I'd get really mad at people camping. I'd be like, "Yo, that's not how you play the game." And then like I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna beat them at their own game, and then I became a camper. And I would just run around like the map with a knife and like go around the snipers and stab them in the back and be like, "Yo," and then I teabag them.
What's a camper?
A camper is basically when, like, you know how you're supposed to like run around the map and shoot people?
I never played Call of Duty.
Okay, well, you go run, pretend paintball. You go and
Okay.
you run around, but like,
I never did
and you
paintball.
shoot. Okay, well,
Because I'm being a dick now. Keep going.
Okay, pretend in World War II, my ancestors that died. Shout out Panos.
I was there. That one.
Yeah,
that one hits.
100%.
Yeah.
You know,
This one's landing.
they go and run and like they shoot bing bang, but campers are basically the ones that like just chill in a bush. You can't see them, or like they don't move from like their HQ, like their headquarters.
Got it.
And so they'll just like be annoying, and they do it to be annoying, but also it is somewhat strategic. But like, yeah, I get really mad at that, or like I would think that I'm better than the system, and like I would like think I killed them, even though I clearly didn't.
Yeah.
Because they shot me first, but I thought I shot them first, and then I would just like break my controller. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. So you want to talk about on a thing? I put a mental note because you put a mental note.
Thank you.
And about the self-confidence, or the thing that I said about self-confidence.
Yes. I had a client once who had made a really great point about motivation and discipline. And so the cliche before was you need to be motivated to succeed. And then that became too saturated. So people said, you don't need motivation, you actually need discipline to do the thing that you need to do regardless of how you feel. And so he one-upped it. He said, discipline is a skill that takes time, and most people aren't disciplined at all. So you can't just say, don't be motivated, be disciplined. That's like saying, don't be bad at basketball, be LeBron James. So how do you get good at how do you become disciplined? How do you build that skill? It's resilience. And so his whole thing was, instead of trying to be disciplined, just be resilient. Every time you notice yourself fucking up, just consciously go, no, I need to go back. No, I need to go. It's like the same thing with meditation. When you're doing mindfulness meditation, the whole point is just focus on your breath. Every time your mind wanders, oh, my bad, back to my breath. It's not, you can't let your mind wander. It's just, I'm training my mind to do this thing. So I think confidence is kind of like that, if this makes sense. So I think confidence is like the discipline thing. You can't just be confident. I've had so many people tell me, like, you need to be more confident. I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, you just need to believe in yourself. I'm like, but I hate myself. like, that seems, believing in myself is super far away from hating myself. It's like when you're 370, like Puffy, like, what's your bench? Like, dude, I can't do a push-up. Yeah, I don't walk outside my house. What are you even talking about bench? Fuck yourself, right? So I think instead of focusing on being confident, you should instead analyze how you see yourself. You should go inward and look at what you believe truly, because that's more intricate, and it's easier to analyze those thoughts and undo them and rewire them with new beliefs than it is to just be confident. Like, for example, going up and just like cold approaching a woman in public for me was like, I could never do it. And then Yeah, and then I kind of figured out how to do it, but there would still be these waves where if I was in a bad place, I just couldn't do it, or I couldn't push myself to work as hard, or I just didn't want to go to the gym, and I'd feel like this mental lock to just not perform. And so through the work that I've done in the last 5 months, I realized that there are a lot of key fundamental beliefs I have that don't serve my goals, like the idea that if I do well and I succeed, people are going to see me, and I don't deserve people to see me, and I don't deserve the success, and I don't want to be acknowledged because people are going to reject me anyways. Of course, I'm going to continue to have these waves of like, I feel good and I feel shit. I feel good and I feel shit. Yeah. Because if that's something that's a core value and fundamental to my existence as a human being, I'm going to reject the opportunities in which I have to be seen by people. Right? It's the same thing with another belief I had was no matter how hard I work, no matter how well I do, no matter how much I put into a certain project, people are still going to dislike me. And that comes from like years of growing up playing sports, wearing goggles, looking like a fucking idiot.
Goggles are hot.
Okay, well you, Puffy, I appreciate that. But as to...
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, man.
Okay, but they weren't Kareem goggles.
Well, then that's your fault.
Yeah, I know. I begged my parents for contacts when I was a kid. I was like, Mom, Dad, I can't get a job. Please, I'm actually begging you. Can I just wear contacts? And they're like, Nicholas, you're just mad because kids at school think you look stupid. I'm like, that's 100% it.
Yeah.
Please. Like, it's the worst feeling. It's such an easy fix. And my parents were like, yo, contacts are expensive. So I thought contacts were like $500 or something. And I became an adult. I'm like, these are like $80.
Cheaper than glasses.
What the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like, I was even saying like I only wear them all the time. I'll wear goggles in practice. I don't care.
Yeah.
But as soon as there's other people around, bro, the goggles are going to the garbage. Like, the contacts are coming out. So, anyways, I appreciate you saying that, but goggles are not cool. But now it's funny. There are kids now starting to wear the nerdy goggles that I wore. And people are like, yo, like these are sick. I'm like,
it's like that's how like the trends work, right? It goes backwards.
I'm like, God damn it. I remember this one time. This is so funny. I had to get new goggles. And Amari Stoudemire was wearing He was wearing protective eye goggles at the time because he just had surgery. And Stoudemire was like an all-star. Like, he was a great player at the time. And I was like, Mom, can I get the Stoudemire goggles, please? Like, Stoudemire's wearing them, Kirk Heinrich's wearing them. Like, Kirk Heinrich's not that good, but like he's still in the NBA.
Yeah.
Can't please get them? And she's like, all right, sure. So I'm like fucking like fist pumping the whole drive to the Superstore eyewear place. And we get there and oh my God, I almost killed this one.
They were a lot, right?
No, they were the same amount.
Oh, okay.
But we're like, yo, I'm like, this is like my fucking Super Bowl. Like I feel like Tom Brady with his hands over his head after beating the St. Louis Rams, just like in disbelief.
Yeah.
And the fucking lady at the counter goes, they're like the same as the ones you currently have. Why don't you just keep the current ones? Because they're going to ship easier because they already have your measurements. My mom's like, see, we can get them quicker. I was like, no, fuck. And they're like, well, do you playing basketball? So I'm like, yeah, I got like practice this week. They're like, well, just get the. I'm like, I'd rather like fake an injury in this practice.
And that's what led you to your second psych ward.
Yeah, no, that was prior to the psych ward.
That was the original.
We're still building up. I almost choked that woman. No, I didn't. I was like 14. I wasn't gonna do shit. But anyways, the idea of like, so anyways. I grew up, and I think it was easy to pick on me. Like, I wore goggles. I had really bad social skills. I was super energetic, and I didn't know how to wear that yet in like a cool, socially acceptable way. Like, I'd always make jokes that were just like way too inappropriate or weird, and so I was an easy target. And looking back, I get it. I have compassion for myself. I have compassion for those kids who I played sports with. But growing up, because there was no break from that, like my parents weren't super like comforting and loving. They loved me, but it was like, hey, we're going to provide for you, and you know, nobody did this for us, so we can't do it for you. I didn't really hang out with friends outside of school, and like in areas where I was supposed to be competent sports, it was like, no, you're still the bottom of the totem pole. So that experience led me to believe that like no matter what I do, I'm always going to be seen as a loser. So with the 100K a month thing, like no wonder I couldn't give my all into that. If my programming tells me this is going to literally make you an outcast and make your life objectively worse, yeah, of course I'd fuck it up. So that's, instead of just like being confident, because like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I think it's important to like tangible advice, because once you get like the tangible masculine energy of like, here's a strategy, do this, then you can sink into like the feeling and the being and the knowing, right? Like the confident thing reminds me of this. I've had coaches always tell me to like, you need to stop thinking so much. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How the fuck do you do that? They're like, just don't think. I'm like, that's your advice?
Yeah.
That's the holy grail? Wow, thanks, man. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's never crossed my mind once. Thank you for that amazing wisdom, Buddha. I appreciate it.
No, just throw a bag over your head. That'll stop your brain
Literally.
from thinking that's the only
I'm like,
solution.
all I do is think all day.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean I'm supposed to
It
stop?
could be worse. It
course.
makes you like good and creative.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to it, right?
The one thing I wanted to touch on with the confidence would also be consistency. Because I feel like one of the biggest things that most of my clients struggle with, and I know there's a couple watching this that know that I'm exactly talking about them, but I'm not going to name drop them. Consistency is the biggest key to any type of success, whether it's mentality, whether it's self-confidence, whatever. You have to build on it gradually, and I feel like so many people go from 0 to 60, or they go from 0 to 100, or they go from this stupid diet to this stupid diet to this stupid trend to this thing. None of that's going to work. I mean, it's all going to work if you consistently do it, but like, if you're not consistent with even 20%, if you're not consistent with going to the gym twice a week, and 1 week you go 4 times, the next week you go 0, that's not consistency. I mean, it's consistency if you go 4 times a week, then 0, then 4, then 0, then 4, then 0. But in my opinion, it'd be a lot more effective if you went 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
Literally.
Right? Because then you're going to build up on that, because then you go twice a week, then you maybe go 3 times a week. And I mean, you don't really need to exceed 3 times a week, especially if you're a beginner, but there's that part. When it comes to nutrition, everybody's trying to jump from one thing to the next thing, to a crash diet, to this thing, and none of it's ever going to work. But then if you literally just, I had a client, I literally told him this last night. He's consistently inconsistent. He's the most consistently inconsistent client I've ever had. It's been like 4 months, he's been the exact same way.
Yeah.
And all he does is like, basically 4 to 7 days, he is on point. But 4 divided by 7 is like 60% or something.
Yeah, 58.
Something, yeah. So 60% isn't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
But what I told him is that, like, if you're 60% consistent week over week, because 1 week he'll be 80%, 1 week he'll be 60, 1 week he'll be 4. If he's just fucking 60% consistent week after week, then the next week it could be 65, and then 70. Because what I told him is, like, if we take 7 times 4, which is like he's typically eating 4 meals a day, and if you times that by 7, that's 28 meals. I forgot the exact number, but it's like 20 out of 28.
Yeah,
something
I
like
need
that,
20, yeah.
Right? That is 20 meals out of 28 that's consistent. And that's the reason why most people fail, because they're eating like whatever, even 21 times in a week. It would take someone 19 out of 21 meals, which is like 90% adherence, to actually get success. But they're not. They're gonna probably do like 14 out of 21.
Yeah.
And that's only like 66%.
Yeah.
So I can go into different math analogies and this and that. Math is definitely not my strong point. But the biggest thing that I think would be point number 3, the mental aspects are change, which goes hand in hand with confidence, would be consistency.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that, like, that's why I like what my clients said about resilience, which is like, every time you notice yourself fucking up, bring it back. Because once you train your mind to do that, you notice yourself fucking up more, and then you have 2 options. Do I continue to lie to myself, or do I have to change? There's only 2 things.
Yeah.
I notice myself fucking up, like, I can easily be like, no, I'm not, la-di-da. But that's, ignorant, blissful ignorance now, pain later. Or painful reality now, reap the rewards of it later.
Well, it's kind of like your dude said, like, you fuck up, bring it back in. Or like what's the word? He was like, you have to center yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I fucked up, center yourself. Or like, make yourself aware and bring it back in, bring it back to the center. Right? So I want to just quickly touch on, in case like there's any coaches watching this who have a longer attention span than the size of a peanut.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe it's on YouTube, so like you can split it up into like 2 or 3 watches. But for anybody who's still watching, first of all, you're a real one, thank you. Drop a like, shameless plug. But I just want to talk about like your advice about the copywriting, because I think like that's super helpful, obviously not just for me, but if anybody's watching, most people don't realize how impactful copywriting is.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how impactful and useful it was until way later on in my business life. And you're really fucking good at it, especially with the comedic background. And I think that's why we get along really well.
Well, I'd say this. I think a lot of people overcomplicate everything in life.
True.
Right? You see with fitness.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, man.
I need to take this supplement. I need to do this diet. It's like, maybe just
shut the fuck up and be consistent.
Yeah, maybe just, move more and hit your macros.
For the most part.
Do that consistently, you'll see results. And then
even 80%.
Yeah, and then we can see all the fun toys and supplements and...
Toys, you say? Whoa.
I mean, I'm not the guy who drops $300 on grips for tricep pull downs.
120.
$400.
120. 120. It was from the UK.
Just keeps going.
I mean, to be honest, yeah, I probably spent like, if I combine the one from Italy and the one from the UK, that's probably like $300.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like if somebody asked you about that grip thing, you'd be like, motherfucker, just eat more protein. How about that? Like,
Yeah.
How about stop eating fucking fast food?
You know what? It's a business write-off and expand. Yeah, I don't do drugs. Okay, I waste money frivolously on gym equipment, and that will be on my tombstone. That's the worst thing about me right now.
If that's the worst thing, it's not a bad place to be. But I'll say this: a lot of people overcomplicate marketing.
Yes.
They overcomplicate copywriting. You don't, because a lot of people think of writing as like, I'm a writer, like I'm a creative, like I gotta create something from nothing. You don't create good marketing strategies. You don't create good copy. You assemble it.
100%.
So if I'm saying like, hey, look, I'm selling to, online trainers who are at 10K, they're trying to get to 20 or 30K. I don't like fucking dream up a scenario. I just do research. Who are the people already in the space? Who is this avatar? What are they going through? You just compile a big ass list, figure out their biggest, most burning problems, because those are the problems that they want to solve immediately. And they're willing to pay for that pain point to be solved. And then you figure out, okay, well, how do I make this unique? What kind of angle do I need to spin on it? And the way you do that is just by like, okay, let's write out who this person is, let's write out their problems, let's write out their desired situation, let's write out why they're not there already, and then from those problems, which ones are the most effective, and then out of those ones, which ones are talked about the least. And even if there are things like, let's say, for example, tracking calories, like you can't avoid that.
No, not really. I mean, the only way you can avoid it is if like you hire a coach and here's a concept, you actually just follow 100% of the plan, but like nobody's going to do that.
But that's still like, the concept of caloric deficits.
Yes.
You literally cannot fucking avoid that if you want to lose weight.
95%. I'm not trying to be angry.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that like I've worked with, especially recently, they're eating like 1,500 calories a day and they're 400 pounds.
Fair. So, there's some concepts that are very hard to get around.
Yes.
But how do you have a unique spin on it? Like you just said, maybe you just hire a coach and you follow the plan and you don't need to track calories.
But most people won't. And that's why they need the flexibility.
But the idea is like, can you get a unique spin on something? So for example, something that I've come up with, and it's not like this is like a brand new idea. This is just how I specifically say it, and I've had people tell me like, this is very smart. Gary Vee, even people like Brian Mark, big creators in the space, they talk about like provide value, like be valuable to your audience. And I tell my audience, don't provide value because that's vague.
Okay.
Unless you know your audience's biggest problems, it's not going to work. Because if you're telling like people who are really fat, here's the best form in the gym. They don't go to the gym. They don't fucking care. That's valuable. And even if you're telling like a married man form stuff, that's valuable, but is it going to move the needle? You need to find problems that move the needle and just talk to people about it. Because if you're serving a hungry market, if you're serving a hungry market that can afford your services or see the value in your services, and you have an awesome offer, the copy doesn't even need to be that good. It can just be okay.
Better than ChatGPT though. Just throwing it out.
ChatGPT's negative. But you shouldn't get ChatGPT to write copy for you. You should get it to generate ideas and do research for you.
100%. Keywords, SEO, all that jazz,
But anyways.
So what would you recommend on niching? Because I tell almost every coach that's not smart, to put it lightly, that you can't. Okay, for me, I'm probably the only anomaly, and what I wish to niche down more, I might in the future. But obviously, I lost 150 pounds. I don't have a preference of men or women. I don't have a preference of age and all that jazz. But for most people, that doesn't have my backstory. What would you recommend in terms of niching? Because like I tell everybody, they need to niche down. They can't just be broad, generic. I coach everyone, because then if you what's the saying? If you coach everyone, you coach no one.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If you have a great brand, like an established brand, okay, you don't have to niche down as much. But then it becomes a question of, well, how do you build an established brand? And if you're at zero, that becomes a thing of like, don't be bad at basketball, be LeBron James. So, okay, that's a very simple answer. But becoming LeBron James is very fucking difficult. So in order to get off the ground, in order to scale up, you need to be viewed as a specialist. So I would tell people like, what's the demographic of people that needs your help the most, that you can help the most, that you enjoy helping and can afford your services? And then just like talk about their specific problems. And so with fitness, it kind of becomes a bit difficult just because a lot of people target the same people. Busy men, career-driven women, right? Like there's only really two categories, right? either rich men or rich women. You can't really, like, I want to target poor people. Like, okay, have fun building the business doesn't fucking scale. So it becomes, again, the idea of both of those demographics of people are going to benefit from knowing calories, knowing macros, walking, working out, being hydrated, etc. How can you find big burning problems for them that aren't being talked about as much? And you'll see this, there's some people talking about hormones, talking about menopause, talking about blood work, talking about testosterone. And because those aren't as saturated of markets, they're easy to break into. And they're going to get more saturated, it's just how it works. So how do you create unique angles about those topics? So for example, one of my clients, they talk about one of their biggest things is we'll reset your metabolism and optimize your hormones for fat loss for career-driven women within 90 minutes of exercise a week.
That's very niche and specific.
It's very niche and specific, and they did 7 figures last year.
Yeah, well, no shit, and I would say I'm not surprised because of how specific and narrowed down that niche is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, like, some people can say, like, oh, you can broaden your niche as you get off the ground once you're like 20, 30K a month. And I don't think that's a terrible idea. But the nice thing about being niche at the beginning is you get a lot of, and this happened to me when I niched down a lot. I've sort of broadened my niche a little bit. But at the beginning, I was super niche. I had a lot of people tell me, like, hey, man, I see what you do for online coaches, online trainers. Can you do that with me? Sure. You'll get a lot of people tapping you on the shoulder going, like, man, that looks really sick. Like, do you think that would work with me as well? Can you help people like me? So that's what I'd say.
So you can broaden the horizon. And I guess on that note, the last thing we might touch on would be like building a personal brand. Because you're pretty good at it.
Thank you.
I would like to say I'm pretty good at it, although the algorithm gods hate me.
I think you're good at it. You should have a bunch of people report you.
And that is true. I definitely would say that. I'm either shadow, like, bro, I don't understand. I got like 10K and then there's like 200 people seeing it, but whatever. We talked about it earlier. Like, just one thing I want to mention is, like, if there's any coaches, or not even coaches, is anybody watching this that wants to be a content creator, trying to, grow their business, if you're filming content with a specific niche, a specific reason, a specific why, okay, granted, if you're just being a content creator to just go viral, like whatever, this isn't the pod for you, this isn't advice for you, but if there's only 200 people watching your shit, who cares? As long as those are the 200 right people. Because I'm not the first person to say this, and I won't be the last. Like, follower count and etc. doesn't really correlate necessarily to like what's in your bank account. Because I mean, I don't know personally. Well, actually, you're a good example. You make X amount per month, and you only have like 3K followers.
Not even.
Right, and your average view. I mean, your views don't do terrible, especially compared to mine. But if you get like 1,000 views a video,
they're nothing to write home about.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like if you were getting 10,000, 100,000 views a video, then it would make like more sense. Oh, people can correlate that much income, right? But point is, like, I make like 200, or I get like 200 views a video, maybe 300 views a video, and it's like, no, that shouldn't be discouraging you to like post content and whatnot. But anyways, I'm kind of going on a separate segue. So I guess personal brand, you're pretty good at it. I guess any recommendations or like?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say when you're building a personal brand that makes money, and side note, I really fucking hate the term personal branding. I use it because other people use it, which is great, which is what good marketers do, by the way.
Hermosi.
Yeah, you have to find what people are talking about and use their language. I really don't like it because I think a lot of people think that personal branding just means it's you, just post you, and people will love you.
Not necessarily.
People will love you if you do the right thing. 70 to 80% of your posts should be about your audience's biggest burning problems.
100%.
And unique takes on that. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be a fucking robot or be like what I call textbook content, where it's so fucking dry, or what I also call broccoli. Like, people, it's good for you, but people don't want to eat it. Nobody likes it. You need to find a way to give them content that they find valuable, that gives them massive takeaways and has major benefits, but they enjoy consuming, because then they're actually going to want your offer, right? You need to give them a good experience. Give them a cookie, not broccoli. Because if you give your audience cookies, they're going to line up to buy your offer. You don't want them just to binge your content all day. You want them to actually buy from you. Binge your content's good, but you want action takers. So the other 20% I would say is connect with your audience on a personal level. And this is something I've kind of avoided because I hate myself and I never do that.
No, you're doing better at it.
I'm doing YouTube now. Sorry, I used to hate myself. And I thought that people who are watching would think it was stupid. But there is something to be said about connecting with your audience. So, like, being vulnerable in ways that are healthy and appropriate.
Yeah, like you Germany lost and you were sad about it.
Oh, fucking God. I'll literally make this podcast the worst podcast
No,
ever.
no, don't. I'm just saying. But that's what,
Yeah,
posting memes about Germany.
Yeah, memes about like your favorite activities. Like on Instagram, it's easy because you have stories. They're gone in 24 hours.
Exactly.
You can post funny shit. I post raccoons all the time.
Yeah.
It's great. But I will say this. So like some people, this is my favorite thing. I need to make a video. I want to make a video on this, but I think it's too crass. But I think this is this is the platform to make this joke, and I think you find it funny. But like, be vulnerable with a purpose. There still needs to be like a takeaway for people to get, but it can't be an overshare.
Yeah.
If your story that you're sharing with the internet is like, yeah, I used to do coke every day, and like I had a train run on me like every weekend to like feed my addiction, and my parents don't call me anymore. Like, don't share that. That's not the information the internet wants to know. Just say I was addicted to drugs. We'll fill in the gaps on our own, right? Because like I see so many people like. It's like, yeah, so I cheated on my husband and like he locked me out and my kids told me they never speak to me again, but thanks to Jesus, we're back together by my course. It's like, that's cringe and weird.
Hallelujah.
Just say like my husband and I were on the rocks and our intimacy died and like honestly thought I'd never see my family again. Don't be like, yeah, I couldn't go 10 minutes without watching porn, so I had to leave my house with my VR headset so I could constantly be on the hub.
Okay.
Want to buy my masculinity course?
You want to know how you could grow your dick?
Yeah. It's called joking. You need a penis pump.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that. But what's the thing in comedy? You always leave on the high note. That's
you gotta.
So now to pull out what shout out to Sean Evans from Hot Ones. You have this camera, and this camera, because now I actually have different angles. Tell the people what you got going.
Just trying to build my business.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Let me follow on Instagram.
Yeah, all your socials and shit will be in the description.
Bueno no bueno, 2 O's.
I'll tag it properly. And we'll put this on Instagram.
Click it.
Yeah, click it.
Hit that link. Hit that tag.
He doesn't have a link in bio. Actually, you do. But it's
I do.
not like the OnlyFans.
It's a VSL.
Yeah.
You want to see my VSL? Hey.
No, you just put a little sauce on it.
Check it out. I like my VSL. It's good. But yeah, that's literally it. You can follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm also gonna have a vlog coming out. I don't know if I scheduled this correctly. We did a workout earlier today. We just kind of shot the shit and did a workout. Nothing too serious. I'll have a vlog about today. So check out that if you're watching the podcast.
Talked about joking. It was great.
We didn't record that part. Thank God. I am a small channel. I really don't want it to be kicked off. I like my YouTube channel, but joking is something very interesting. And I learned also. Here's a fun fact. Lowriding. Lowriding means, or how it was invented, was a way to signal to the homies in prison that you're DTF.
Yeah, you're open to business.
And also apparently, teardrop tattoos means that you got graped in prison. So, put up to Jeff. You learn something new every day. This was a really insightful day. I'm really appreciative of our relationship.
Thank you, me too.
And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. In the future, this is like the third podcast I'll probably post. By now, hopefully there's like just drop a comment and see, and like, I don't know, I'll eventually respond to it. We'll definitely have another podcast in the future if I don't go bankrupt by then.
Thank you.
And other than that, this is what we're knocking on, and that's a good thing. And thanks for watching. Do all the content or the algorithm stuff, like, subscribe, and send this to someone who is a coach potentially, or just struggling with mindsets. I think this was a good informative thing on that. And I think that's a wrap.
Thank you, sir.